What's up, guys? Lance the Obscure Movie Guy coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. And today I'm here to talk to you about a new, low-budget, independent action film called The Bouncer, starring, I want to say, up-and-comer John Ozuna. So let's take a look at The Bouncer, let's learn a little bit more about John, and let's review this bad boy.
Can you explain to me what the hell I just saw?
Every week it's a new one, okay? If you stick around here long enough, you're gonna see that all the time, and you're gonna learn to look away.
Who are you, anyways?
Don't touch me.
For what?
Come on! Go home or go to the hospital. Your choice.
Russia, you have nothing.
Shoot him!
Windows jammed!
I give you a good life. This is how you repay me.
It's not gonna end well. Do you know how to drive?
No!
I actually love it.
You know nothing about life.
She's gonna need an operation as soon as possible.
How did he keep finding us?
It's a helicopter. I'm in trouble when I see it.
His name's Kane. Ask anybody around here. He's into everything.
You cannot run forever.
Already did.
Master John Ozuna is a first-generation disciple of Grandmaster Richard Lee and is a master black belt in Bokfudo with over 30 years of experience. He has owned and operated KO Kung Fu Karate in San Jose, California since 1989. He is the West Region Director of the United States Kyushu Federation. He holds a 6th Tuan Red Sash and is an international referee A through the World Kyushu Federation. John has represented the United States in international and world competition in Spain at the European Cup in 1992 and at the 7th World Kyushu Championships in the ROC in 1992. He is a 2-time Guinness World Record holder, one for the most martial art punches in 1 minute at 713 and the fastest martial arts punch at 43.3 miles per hour. Now, you might have noticed some familiar faces in that trailer. Costas Mandylor, Nick Turturro, and Gerald Akamara. So, this movie, the screener was sent to me by my good buddy Joseph Williamson from the Williamson Entertainment Group, who's been sending me lots of really cool stuff to check out. And I first saw John in Death Bitch, which he only had a brief part as one of the guys in the park that ends up getting into a fight and getting killed, but he had a brief fight scene that I thought actually was choreographed pretty well, and it just so happens that he was in that. Joseph sent me that, so now Joseph sent me this as well. And the irony is that a little bit of a small world. I noticed John in Death Bitch. I'm scrolling through Facebook one day, going through a random group for my local town, and I see somebody post something about John Ozuna, and I was like, some reason that name clicked with me for some reason. So I looked it up, and it was like, oh, I just saw this guy in Death Bitch, and I started talking to this lovely lady about John, and we chit-chatted back and forth about John's career, where he's been, where he's come from, where he's trying to go, and it was really interesting. It's kind of a small world. She lives in my town, she's friends with John, and I just saw John in Death Bitch, so The Bouncer for me kind of comes full circle for me, so I can check out and see what John is all about. And as you saw, and as we talked about, certifiable badass. John's been doing this type of stuff for a long time. as far as martial arts go. Movies, maybe not so much, but I really feel like The Bouncer was a good introduction for John to try and get his face and his name out there a little bit more. Now, John does have some acting experience. He's been in some low-budget independent stuff. He's been background extras and uncredited in some other films, and I did touch on that a little bit in my review with The Death Bitch. But he's been in Venom, Ant-Man and Wasp. He's even been in Matrix movies, so Matrix Resurrections. So, I mean, he's got some big-budget experience, even though he was uncredited or a background extra, and obviously he's got a lot of low-budget experience. But The Bouncer, I don't want to say it's his big break, but I do feel like it's kind of like his first foray into trying and become maybe an action star, or at least be a little bit more noticeable in Hollywood, and I think The Bouncer went pretty well for him. So let's break down the movie. So the movie was written and directed by Massimiliano Cerci, and I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And he also had a small part in the movie as a gun dealer. And I gotta say, I enjoyed this movie a lot. And part of the reason I enjoyed it is because it is an action flick, and with a lot of low budget independent films, you don't see a lot of low budget independent people trying to do action films, because it can be kind of hard to pull off. Action sequences are not easy to do, so you need somebody that's got experience. Fight choreography is not very easy to do, so you need somebody with experience with that. We're talking guns, helicopter, the whole nine, and they tried to pull it off. And I don't think it came out that bad. The movie does have its problems, but the first thing you're going to notice is that the production quality of the film is actually not that bad. And when you have guys like Nick Turturro and especially Costas Mandylor as the main bad guy, those are names that in the film industry do carry some clout. Costas Mandylor has been in a ton of stuff. Independent, big film, small feature, big feature, screenplay. You know, he's done a lot of stuff, and he's a really good actor. Nick Turturro, most people would recognize from just about any Adam Sandler film in the last 15, 20 years. And his name carries a little bit of clout as well. He's a very established actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. So kind of cool to see these people in a low-budget action film like this, and then John trying to do his best carrying this film on his back. So the production value, you'll notice, is very good. Now, like most low-budget independent films, not everything is perfect. And the acting in this film, I mean, the stars, John Azuna, Costas Mandylor, we talked about, Nick Turturro, I mean, they all did really well. In fact, I was actually kind of impressed with John, because John hasn't, even though he's been in some movies, he hasn't really had very many like speaking parts. So I was a little apprehensive to see how he was going to do, and I was skeptical when I went into this. I really was. But John actually kind of surprised me with his acting abilities. He can deliver his lines very crisp, very polished. He comes off with a very good presence. He's not a very big guy as far as stature goes, but he carries himself very well, almost like a Tom Cruise-esque type thing. He's bigger on screen than he is in real life. And I don't mean John's putting lifts in his shoes and all of the weird rumors you hear about Tom Cruise. John just carries himself very well as a human being, and as he should. He's certifiable badass for sure. So I was really impressed with John. Obviously, like I said, Costas Mandylor, consummate professional, did a really good job. But there were, actually, and I did like Simon Phillips, who plays Carl in the movie. I actually liked him a lot. I liked his character. I thought he did pretty well in the movie as well. So did well as well. That's very bad English on my part. But he did a good job as well. I think probably one of the biggest issues I had with the movie was a little bit of the writing. And I like the overall storyline. I really do. I like the overall storyline. What I didn't like was... Actually, I shouldn't say what I didn't like. What I would have liked is them to probably leave out some of the flashbacks that John has, that John's character has, Frank. I would have liked them to leave the flashbacks out of it. I would have liked them to have expanded on his connections to these characters. So when the movie starts off, I feel like Frank and Carl are relatively new to each other. That's kind of the impression I got. Carl got Frank a job. It's kind of his first week in, and they just seemed kind of like, he's learning the ropes of, this bouncer gig that he has at this bar. And it doesn't really, I didn't really feel like that they were, friends for any extended period of time or close for, any reason. And, later on in the movie, they kind of get to a point where, Frank's really relying on Carl for some help. And, they try to force, I don't want to say they try to force it, but they try to make it come off as if these guys have been best friends for years. And, that's, he refers to him as brother a lot. And I didn't really get that connection. I just didn't feel it in the beginning of the movie. And I wish they would have expanded upon that a little bit. Another connection I wish they would have expanded on was the connection between Frank, John Ozuna's character, and Rosemary Yeneva's character, trying to rescue her from Costas Mandylor. I wish they would have expanded on that connection and relationship a little bit before Frank decided to try and rescue her, because it comes off very quick that Frank just seems like he's trying to do this for the good of humanity, and which is fine. There's a lot of movies that have similar plot lines like that, but I wish they would have expanded on that relationship a little bit more deeply in the beginning before Frank decided to try and run off with her and save her. But realistically, the storyline overall is not that bad, but the flashback sequences, the issues with his mother, not being able to come back to America, all of that probably could have gone without, and they could have expanded on these character relationships, and I think it would have overall enhanced the movie a little bit. Plus, it probably would have extended the runtime a little bit. The runtime of the movie is only about an hour and 18 minutes, really an hour and 15 if you take the credits out. And if you just spent maybe 15 extra minutes on these relationships, I think it would have enhanced the overall movie and made it a much more pleasurable thing to watch as far as the cohesiveness of the storyline. Another small downfall of the movie is actually the action sequences. And this isn't a knock against John. John did the fight choreography for this film. However, and I think John could probably attest to this a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you're only as good in a fight sequence as the weakest link. And what I mean by that is John's obviously very established and very good at what he does. And with a small budget indie film like this, you're not able to hire the top brass as far as any type of stunt doubles. Obviously, John doesn't need one, but maybe some of the other characters did. But you don't really get to hire a stunt double. You don't really get to hire a stunt team. You're kind of handed with, we've got some of these, low-budget actors that may or may not have any experience at all being in not only a fight or have any fight experience. Maybe they don't even have any screen fight experience. So in that regard, John looks really good in comparison to some of these other guys that don't look like they could even hold a candle to him. And I don't know that that was necessarily the point of the film. And you can kind of tell in certain sequences where maybe a punch or a kick didn't look like as well formed as it should be. John couldn't necessarily get full extension if he wanted to. Some of the things were kind of wonky. And again, you're only as good as the guy you're pretending to hit. It's like wrestling. If you watch a good wrestling match, like WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage, man, those guys were awesome. It was an incredible match. But if you have a match where one wrestler's really good and the other guy's not, and he's not selling what you guys are trying to, convey to the audience, it comes across as a little wonky. And that's kind of what happened with some of these fight sequences. But that's not necessarily a knock against John, because John did a really good job trying to choreograph these things as best he could. And I think he knew probably with some of this talent that some of these guys probably weren't as prepared to be quote unquote beat up. I don't think John's actually hitting anybody, but beat up in movie sense. And I think that came across a little bit in the film, unfortunately. But overall, I give the movie a solid 6. It is a pretty entertaining movie, and I was more vested in it because I am a big fan of martial arts, and I did like the fact that John is a martial artist in real life trying to make it as an actor. This is kind of a throwback to the 80s and 90s when this was a really big thing in Hollywood, where they would take martial artists and try and make them actors versus having actors actually learn martial arts. And I was a huge fan of that. I'm a big fan of, you guys, I know I love Cynthia Rothrock. even Billy Blanks. Van Damme, obviously, that, I mean, he's gone on to have a very established career, but early on he couldn't act hardly at all, but was a great martial artist. Steven Seagal was the same way, and he still can act, but I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. He's definitely going to whip my ass. Thomas Ian Griffith from Cobra Kai. You know, he's a certified Taekwondo grandmaster, and he was amazing in Karate Kid Part 3, and that was really his film debut. And man, that guy's got some beautiful kicks. You know, Jeff Speakman, The Perfect Weapon. I mean, again, martial artists that were getting into movies and trying to make it as actors. And I kind of feel like that's what The Bouncer is. That's what The Bouncer is for John. John is a martial artist trying to get into movies, and I love the feeling of that. And it was a throwback for me to watch this film and see that kind of unfold. So I really enjoyed the movie. It's really cool. I think they did a really good job trying to work with what they had. I was really surprised to see, you know, actual gunfights in the film, a helicopter. Again, this is a low-budget action flick. And again, it's not something that low-budget independent films really try to tackle very much because it's hard to do. Fight sequences, gunfiring sequences, get a helicopter on a low budget. So putting that stuff together, I think they did a really good job. I wish they would have expanded on the relationships between the characters a little bit more. I think that really would have enhanced the film. But overall, 6 out of 10. Like I said, it's got a runtime of 1 hour and 18 minutes. Check it out when it becomes available. Guys, it was a good time. So I'm super happy for John. I hope this opens the door for him a little bit moving down the road. Costas Mandylor, I mean, he's a consummate professional. There's nothing, he's a great bad guy, and he's going to be in some upcoming independent films that I'm going to be reviewing as well, so I don't want to spoil anything for people that actually care. So, but guys, check me out on Facebook, like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel. Go look up John Azuna, and I will see everybody in the next video.